I never imagined that one day I'd be sitting across from my wife, asking her to choose between our marriage and having another child. 8 years of love, two beautiful kids, and countless memories. Yet here we are, stuck at a crossroads I didn't see coming. Funny how one decision can unravel everything you thought was solid. But maybe this was always coming. My name's Tyler, and I've been married to Mia for 8 years. We met fresh out of college, one of those whirlwind love stories where everything just felt easy. She made me laugh like no one else could. Smart, warm-hearted, stubborn as hell, and beautiful in a way that didn't scream for attention, but caught mine anyway. When we got married, we didn't have a master plan, but we always talked about having a family. 2 kids? Maybe 3? It was never written in stone, just this open-ended dream we shared late at night while lying in bed, staring at the ceiling and mapping out our lives. Our first child, Ellie, came into the world screaming and red-faced, and I cried harder than she did. I didn't think I had it in me to love someone that instantly and that fiercely. 2 years later, our son, Max, arrived, quiet, wide-eyed, and clutching my finger the second he could. Having them changed everything. The way I saw the world, the way I moved through each day. I was no longer just a husband or a man trying to climb the next rung in his career. I was a dad. And being their dad, it is the most meaningful thing I've ever done. But after Max was born, something in me just shifted. It wasn't a decision I came to lightly or out of the blue. It came slowly in pieces, after long nights with a baby who wouldn't sleep, after watching Mia endure another complicated pregnancy, after juggling diapers, doctor visits, and sleep deprivation while trying to be present for my job, my kids, and my wife. One day I found myself thinking, this is it. 2 is my number. I'm done. And I told Mia that, gently but clearly. She listened, nodded, and said she understood. I remember the way she touched my hand and said, we'll make the most beautiful life with the 2 we have. That moment brought me a kind of peace. It felt like we were aligned, like we were moving forward with the same vision. But that understanding didn't last. 6 months ago, she sat me down with a look I knew too well, something between fear and hope, and told me she wanted another baby. Not just thought about it or missed it. She said she needed one, that something inside her felt unfinished. I listened. I really did. I tried to be gentle. I told her I heard her, that I got it, but I couldn't go through it all again. At first, she tried to meet me where I was. She offered solutions, compromises, trade-offs, told me she'd go back to the job she once hated if it meant we could afford more childcare. Said we could lean on family more, even if she knew how strained those relationships were. But as much as I appreciated her efforts, every suggestion felt like patchwork on a foundation that was already cracking. Because this wasn't about logistics. It wasn't about schedules or paychecks or nap routines. It was about capacity, emotional, mental, physical. Mine was full, overflowing even. I wasn't just reluctant to have another child. I was certain I couldn't, and that certainty started building a wall between us. And as I watched her eyes water when I said no again, I knew this wasn't going to be a passing disagreement. This was something bigger, something that could tear us apart. Not because we stopped loving each other, but because we stopped wanting the same life. And the scariest part, I didn't know how to fix it. I spent weeks after that conversation hoping Mia would change her mind, that the storm of wanting would pass and we'd go back to being on the same page again. I wasn't trying to dismiss her feelings. I know the ache for something more can be all-consuming, but I also hoped she'd look at the life we had and see what I saw, a complete, beautiful picture, not something missing a final piece. Instead, her desire only grew stronger. She brought it up gently at first, like she was testing the water. Then gradually it became more frequent, more intense. Every conversation circled back to the same point. What could she do to make me change my mind? What if we hired a full-time nanny? What if she promised I wouldn't have to be as involved? She even said she'd be okay if I took a step back from parenting the 3rd child altogether. Just show up when I could, and she'd handle the rest. That suggestion broke me in a way I didn't expect. I still remember the exact moment she said it. We were sitting on the couch, the kids were in bed, and the only light in the room came from the TV playing some show neither of us was watching. She turned to me and said, If it's really just too much for you, I can take it on. You don't have to be all in this time. I looked at her, and it felt like the air had been punched out of my lungs. Not because I thought she couldn't handle it. Mia is incredibly capable, but because I couldn't fathom bringing a child into the world with one parent emotionally disengaged. I don't know how to half love a child. I don't know how to look into the eyes of a son or daughter and feel anything less than everything. To imagine myself stepping back, being absent by design made me feel sick. And more than that, it terrified me. What would that do to that child? What would that do to me? I told her I couldn't do that I wouldn't, and still she pushed forward with the ideas. Her resolve was admirable in a way. She offered to return to her old job and a high-paying corporate gig she used to come home from in tears, exhausted and drained. The same job she once swore she'd never go back to. I knew she meant it when she said she would, that she'd sacrifice her happiness if it meant holding a third baby in her arms. But watching her try to bargain away her own well-being only made me more certain this wasn't the path for us. The truth is, our life already feels full. We have two little humans who need us, who light up our days and exhaust our nights. Ellie's in preschool, learning to read, asking endless questions. Max is wild and fearless, climbing on furniture and pushing every boundary. And in the middle of it all, I'm trying to hold everything together. Be a good dad, a supportive husband, a provider, a man who shows up. I'm tired, not the kind of tired a nap can fix. The kind that settles in your bones when you're pulled in 100 directions and still trying to give your best to each one. The idea of adding another child into this already delicate balance doesn't feel possible. It feels like tipping a scale that's already strained, but Mia didn't see it that way. To her, I was just refusing, shutting a door she wasn't ready to see closed. And that's when things really started to change between us. It started small, these subtle shifts between us. A pause before she'd respond, a distant look when the kids did something funny, and I turned to share the moment. Her smile wouldn't quite reach her eyes anymore, and at night she began going to bed earlier, sometimes without saying goodnight, claiming she was tired. Maybe she was, or maybe she was just tired of pretending she wasn't disappointed in me. I tried to bridge the gap. I planned family outings, offered to take over the morning routines, suggested we get away for a weekend. Just the two of us. She agreed to everything, but the air between us felt different, like we were going through the motions of a marriage, not really in one anymore. One night, after we put the kids to bed, I found her sitting at the kitchen table, staring blankly at her tea. I sat across from her, unsure of what to say. She spoke first, her voice quiet, almost flat. "Do you ever think you'll change your mind?" I knew what she meant. She didn't have to say it. "No," I answered honestly, I don't." She nodded slowly as if confirming something she already knew but didn't want to believe. Then she whispered, "I think I'm going to start resenting you." That line hit me harder than any argument ever could. Not because it was loud or angry, but because it was honest. Brutally so. I sat there for a long time staring at her. She wouldn't look at me. Just kept rubbing the rim of her mug in slow circles. And all I could think was, this is what it feels like when love starts to crack under pressure. Not from betrayal, not from cruelty, just from wanting two different things too deeply. She said she didn't want a divorce, that she loved me. But she also said something I'll never forget. "There's this space in my heart that feels empty, Tyler, and I don't think I can close it." How do you respond to something like that? I didn't get defensive. I didn't raise my voice. I just told her the truth, that I respected her feelings, but I wasn't going to bring a life into this world hoping it would heal a rift between us, that a baby deserved more than being born from compromise, and that if she couldn't live with the family we already had, if she really believed she would resent me every day for the rest of our lives, then we needed to face that reality, painful as it was. That was the first time I brought it up. The possibility of ending the marriage. It wasn't a threat. I didn't throw it out to scare her. It was just the truth laid bare, because the more we danced around it, the more damage we were doing. To us, to the foundation of our family, to the love that used to come so effortlessly. She looked at me, eyes shining with tears, and whispered, "That's not fair." And maybe it wasn't, but neither was spending the rest of our lives walking on emotional eggshells, never fully happy, never fully healed. After that night, we both went quiet. We still made the kids breakfast together, still talked about school drop-offs and grocery lists, but the deeper things, they stayed buried under the weight of everything unsaid. I didn't want to lose her, but I also knew I couldn't lose myself trying to hold on. And that realization scared me more than anything. In the weeks that followed, I kept hoping for clarity, some kind of emotional signal that would show us the way forward. Instead, we drifted in a strange, quiet limbo. We weren't fighting, not exactly, but every conversation felt careful. Every laugh felt thinner than it used to. There was this invisible line between us neither of us knew how to cross. Mia started spending more time in the kids' rooms. I'd walk past their doors at night and see her sitting beside Ellie's bed, stroking her hair long after she'd fallen asleep, or curled up beside Max, whispering softly while he clutched his blanket. Maybe she was soaking in the parts of motherhood she still had control over. Or maybe she was mourning the version she'd never get to have again. One afternoon, while she was folding laundry in the bedroom and I was packing up the kids' backpacks for the next day, she said, "Do you ever feel like we're just managing things now, not actually living them?" I didn't answer right away. I knew what she meant. We were efficient, we were organized, but we weren't connected like we used to be. We were a team, sure, but not the kind that shared stolen kisses in the kitchen or whispered secrets in the dark anymore. I feel like we're surviving, I admitted, and doing a pretty good job of it. But yeah, some days I miss us. She nodded, her hands frozen mid-fold. Me too. I walked over, wrapped my arms around her from behind, and rested my chin on her shoulder. We stood there for a while, not saying anything. That moment, small as it was, meant something. A reminder that there was still something there. Still love. Still a bond. But love, I was learning, doesn't always solve everything. There was still the looming question, still the weight of what she wanted and what I couldn't give her. It didn't go away, not even in the tender moments. If anything, those moments made it harder, because they reminded us of everything that was still good, while highlighting the thing that threatened to tear it apart. The finances weren't helping either. Between Max's prescriptions, daycare costs, and everyday expenses, we were stretched thin. We weren't drowning, but we definitely weren't comfortable. Every dollar mattered, and the idea of adding another child, another daycare bill, another college fund, another everything, felt impossible. I brought it up one night carefully. I showed her the numbers, the budget, our savings goals, the list of activities we wanted the kids to try, Ellie's art class, Max's swim lessons. I said, I want to give them a good life, Mia, a stable one. I want to be there, not just physically, but mentally. Emotionally, I don't think I can do that with another child. I just don't. She was quiet. Then she said something I hadn't expected. I don't want to raise a child who's resented, Tyler, and I don't want to be resented for wanting one. That stuck with me, because despite everything, I knew she wasn't being selfish. She wasn't trying to trap me or ruin what we had. She was just following something she felt deeply, maybe even something primal, and I couldn't fault her for that. But I also couldn't betray myself. It was around that time I rescheduled the vasectomy consult I'd put on hold months earlier. I didn't tell her right away, not because I was hiding it, but because I wanted to be sure, really sure, that I was making the right decision. And when I sat there in that clinic, filling out the intake form, I realized I was sure. That was the day I finally chose the life I already had over the one we might have built. I told Mia about the vasectomy later that week. We were sitting on the back porch after the kids had gone to bed, wrapped in old blankets, watching the sky melt into dusk. I could hear the hum of traffic in the distance, the rustle of leaves in the wind. It was one of those rare quiet moments, the kind that used to bring us peace. Now it felt more like a pause between waves. I booked the consult, I said softly, not looking at her. She didn't say anything at first, just stared out toward the fence, eyes fixed on nothing. Finally, she asked, "So that's it?" I nodded. "Yeah, I think it is." She didn't cry. I almost wish she had. There's something about tears that gives you something to respond to, something you can hold, comfort, try to fix. But she didn't break. She just folded into herself like a slow collapse, a quiet resignation I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to forget. "I feel like I'm losing a piece of myself," she whispered. And I understood that. I really did. I wasn't angry. I wasn't trying to win an argument or prove a point. I just felt sad, deeply, achingly sad that the two people who had built so much together were now standing on opposite sides of a dream neither one could abandon without sacrificing something essential. I don't want to lose you, I said, reaching for her hand. She let me hold it, but her fingers didn't curl around mine the way they used to. But you also won't give me what I need. That word, need, hit hard. Because it wasn't a want, a maybe, a whim. It was a part of her, something rooted so deep that nothing I said or did could make it go away. I told her, again, that I loved her, that I loved the family we had, that I wanted to build a life with her and our two kids that was full, rich, joyful, that I couldn't be the kind of father who stepped back. I couldn't bring a child into the world already knowing I didn't have enough left to give. And then I told her something I never imagined I'd have to say. If this is something you can't let go of, if it's something that you'll carry like a weight between us for the rest of our lives, then I think we need to start talking about what that means, for real. Not as a threat, just honestly. She flinched, like the words physically hurt. So you're giving me an ultimatum? No, I said, I'm giving you the truth. Because dragging this out, it's not helping us. It's not fair to either of us. We sat in silence for a long time after that. I think we both knew we'd reached the edge of something we couldn't undo. That some decisions don't come with villains or heroes, just two people trying to live their truth without losing themselves in the process. The next morning, she didn't bring it up. Neither did I. Life moved forward, as it always does. Breakfast was made, lunches were packed, kids were kissed and buckled into car seats. But under the surface, we both felt it. That shift, that final weight settling into place. I don't know what happens next. Maybe she'll stay. Maybe she won't. But I know I made the decision I had to make. And sometimes doing what's right for yourself doesn't feel like victory. It feels like heartbreak. What would you do if the person you loved wanted something you couldn't give? Not out of selfishness, but because your soul just couldn't stretch that far? Would you sacrifice your peace to hold on or let go for the sake of honesty? I'd really like to hear what you would do. If this story moved you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know I'm not alone in this. That maybe somewhere out there, someone understands how painful it is to love deeply and still have to say no.